Hi, I'm going to release these 6 personal growth videos, each of them about 5 minutes. So if you got 5 minutes to spare, listen to them. If there's something you can actually use, go ahead and use it. If not, disregard it. Wait for the next one to come out. So this first one is about self-awareness. Who's that in the mirror? I title it. Why is self-awareness so important? Because most of us are doing 80 miles an hour in the left lane. And, we're moving, the vehicle's moving, we're moving, but are we making progress? Are we even on the right highway? How often do you stop and figure that out? So here's some ideas to help you with that. If you're one of those that doesn't often have a way to evaluate yourself and understand and grow your self-awareness. Okay. I have 3 ideas from simple to more complex. The first one's pretty easy. Get a sheet of paper, put a line down the middle, put your strengths on one side and your development needs or growth or opportunities on the right side. And once you do that, you can take the next step. You can share it with somebody else and get their perspective, and then come up with a list of strengths that you really want to accentuate, because that's important to keep those going, because that's who you are. You are successful right now, but how can we grow, right? And then your areas of opportunity, come up with a game plan. Don't work on too many at once, just one at a time. That's the first idea. Simple process. Number 2, a little bit more in-depth analysis. Take the 6 skills that I'm going to talk about, these personal growth skills that I'm going to talk about in the videos, and create a survey. And then you do a self-assessment, and then you have other people, create your own 360, whoever you'd like feedback or you trust feedback from, to rate you 1 through 6 in each one of those skill sets. Sit down, look at it, see how your perspective and their perspective either are right on or they're quite different. If there's a gap of 2 or more, you want to ask them, how do you see that? Here's where I'm at. What do you see that gave you that? So you understand yourself better and understand what other people see. Because in a leadership role, it's about how you're being perceived also, right? Once you do that, you follow the same process after that as we talked about in the first idea for self-awareness. The last one is an even more in-depth assessment, something along a behavioral styles assessment, emotionally EQ, leadership assessments, any of those, because not only do they access your information, what you put in, but they have databases of past stuff that they can look at patterns and ideas that give you a real rich profile that you can work from. And again, make sure that we focus on the strengths, right? We need to do that. There's a story about a martial arts instructor. In that instructor used to put 2 even lines on the floor, and he'd ask the person, here's you and here's your opponent. And say, so how do you make your opponent's line shorter? And they're talking about just breaking it in half and cutting it and all this stuff. And he says, what if you make yours longer? And that's what we're talking about here with self-growth, right? So here's some things to keep in mind when you're talking about self-awareness. Successful people capitalize on their strengths. That's what brought us to where we're at. High achievers take responsibility for their results, good or bad. That'll help your integrity tremendously. If we don't continue to renew ourselves, we end up rusting out. It's kind of like that car sitting in the farmer's field that hasn't been used, ends up rusting out. Don't be afraid to ask for other people's perspective. It's important. Keep in mind, it's just feedback. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. But it's really helpful to understand how you're being perceived. And then share. If you learn something helpful, pass it on. There's a story I'm going to leave you with, a story about the tallest tree in a new growth forest. And that tree was strong and would wave his branches around and his leaves and that, just, pumping up, showing off how big and strong he was. But he didn't reinvest in himself. All he did was take stuff and abuse it. He didn't use it. He just lived on the power that he had at that point. You know what happens? Eventually, the other trees start growing, and once they grow past, he was left there with a canopy over top and was no longer getting the sunshine he needed to grow. We need to grab for that sunshine. We need to grow and continue to grow. Thank you.